Part 29 begins in the residual tension that lingers long after the cameras stop rolling, the kind of tension that embeds itself in public memory, institutional culture, and the ethical framework of civic oversight. The confrontation between Jasmine Crockett and Pam Bondi has grown beyond the immediate back and forth into a case study in how moral accountability, procedural authority, and historical context intersect under scrutiny. The shadow of Jeffrey Epstein hangs over the exchange, symbolizing the consequences of systemic neglect, unacknowledged harm, and the necessity of institutions to respond both ethically and legally. Crockett's insistence on explicitly recognizing survivors demanded that human experience be centered in real time, while Bondi's calm, structured defense demonstrated that credibility and legitimacy rely on context, precedent, and adherence to procedural norms. The tension between immediate moral acknowledgement and structured authority defines the lasting significance of this hearing. Looking closer, Crockett's approach highlights that ethical responsibility cannot be postponed or treated as symbolic. By insisting on visible acknowledgement, she forced the institution and observers to confront the human dimension of accountability. Bondi's composed, historically grounded responses illustrate that procedural clarity and legal context are equally essential for sustaining institutional credibility. Observers simultaneously evaluate both dimensions, weighing the authenticity of recognition against the sufficiency of procedural justification. This dual perspective underscores that modern oversight is multidimensional, balancing moral, legal, and emotional responsibilities simultaneously. The Epstein legacy amplifies the stakes, transforming what might appear as procedural questioning into a test of moral and institutional integrity. While the hearing addressed past prosecutorial decisions, it also reflected systemic failures, social inequities, and the consequences of unacknowledged harm. Crockett's insistence ensured that acknowledgement was unavoidable, centering survivors' experiences as a key measure of accountability. Bondi's emphasis on procedural rigor ensured that historical actions were contextualized properly, preserving institutional legitimacy. Together, they modeled how oversight must integrate empathy with structural integrity when confronting morally complex and historically sensitive issues. The exchange also demonstrates the iterative nature of accountability. Individual hearings rarely produce immediate reform, but they establish expectations, reinforce norms, and influence institutional behavior over time. Crockett's insistence may normalize explicit acknowledgement of survivors in future proceedings, while Bondi's measured framing provides guidance for responsibly defending historical decisions. Over time, these moments accumulate, embedding a culture in which empathy and procedural rigor coexist, reinforcing both moral resonance and legitimacy. Accountability is thus a continuous, evolving process, refined through repetition and reflection. The tension between moral urgency and procedural composure illustrates a central democratic truth. Conflict can refine institutions rather than weaken them. Crockett's intensity delivers ethical clarity, moral framing, and immediacy, while Bondi's steadiness preserves authority, structural coherence, and procedural integrity. Observers learn that effective oversight requires the simultaneous presence of both forces, showing that neither empathy nor procedure can be neglected without consequence. The exchange becomes a practical template for navigating ethically charged, legally nuanced scenarios, demonstrating the multidimensional nature of accountability in action. Responsibility extends beyond officials to the public. Civic engagement, reflection, and critical discourse ensure that moments like the Crockett-Bondi exchange translate into lasting cultural and institutional influence. The hearing, framed by Epstein's shadow, becomes a benchmark for acknowledging survivors, defending authority, and communicating with moral clarity and procedural rigor. Its enduring impact depends on active public insistence that acknowledgement complements structure, empathy reinforces authority, and oversight is upheld to the highest ethical and procedural standard. The lasting insight is that justice is holistic, integrating acknowledgement, empathy, and structured authority. The conversation from this hearing continues to shape public expectations, institutional norms, and societal standards. Transparency, human recognition, and procedural rigor are mutually reinforcing pillars. The Crockett-Bondi exchange exemplifies how democracy functions under scrutiny, ensuring that ethical clarity and institutional integrity advance together, leaving a lasting imprint far beyond the immediate controversy.